What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim, and with me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs. He
What's up,
just
Joe?
he just cleaned up his beard. He
Yeah, I
looks
did.
he looks good. He brushed his teeth today. His teeth are white. Everything's looking good. So, you know, we were just kind of just chatting a little bit about honeymoons and summer trips, and um, it kind of leads me into um the flip side of this, which is kind of the stinky part of the CFP that nobody really likes talking about or thinking about. It's um, why did I fail? And I got to be honest with you, I think it's such an embarrassing topic to talk about that you don't want to talk about it with anybody. And I think it's one thing that you genuinely, as a candidate, if you did fail the exam, you need to sit down and have either a very honest conversation with somebody else or a very honest conversation with yourself and figure out why you failed. Because a lot of people will fail and go back and do the very same thing that they did that led them to the fail and end up failing again. So I think this is one of the most critical parts of the process that you have to do, but nobody wants to do. It's embarrassing if you feel a little defeated, you feel a little crappy. There's a lot of that.
Definitely.
Do you feel like
I
people do
mean,
this? Do you feel like people actually like sit down and genuinely go, "This is why I failed"?
no, I don't. And listen, maybe some people, but I don't. I don't think that people sit there and like analyze it and go like, all right, let me look at the playbook and see like, all right, where did I go wrong? Where could I have done better? Where could my strategy have been, a little bit more efficient? I think the first thing people think of when they fail is, well, shit. I have to now take this again. And I think one of the mistakes that people make, which this is for a completely whole nother video, but one of the mistakes that people make is they don't analyze what they did wrong and they just go and try and just, instead of changing their strategy, they just go harder. And going harder and studying harder doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the result that you want because you may not be moving in the right direction strategy wise.
Yeah, I just hang on. I want to say something. I love what you just said because I think everybody's mindset coming out of there is, I did 1,000 questions, so now I
Now
need
I'm
to
gonna
do
do
2,000 questions
right,
to prepare.
exactly. Exactly. It's like, you know, let's just take golf for example. You're you're swinging the club and you're not hitting it well. And instead of trying to see like, all right, maybe my technique is wrong, you just now are just going to hit more balls and just try and hit it harder. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be hitting the ball better. It just means that you're just going to be working like a lunatic
Yeah.
instead of saying like, all right, now let me change my grip. Let me change the way I'm swinging down on the ball. That's the stuff.
And that's logical for you and me. But when you get those results, I think the reaction that you have in your gut is, fuck, I should have done more questions.
Yeah. Or I should have stayed up later, or I should have put more hours in, or I should have took maybe 2 weeks off before instead of just a week off before to study for it. So yeah, that's what I think when people come out, that's
So
their first thought. They're not
where do you
changing their strategy.
where do you think the where people are underestimating the exam? Do you think it's, you know, and to some extent, if you fail, you've underestimated the exam in some shape or form, right? To some extent. And
For
I know
sure.
kind of what I'm thinking right now. But I really want to hear what you have to say first. Where do you think they are underestimating the exam? Do you think it's a FINRA thing? Like, I'm so used to Series 7 or 99 or 66 or 65. I've taken these exams in the past, and that's kind of what I had in my head going in. And even when I got the books, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
Where do you think the underestimating is happening?
I think that it's a plethora of things. The number one thing is I think the length of it and just the intensity and just how much is on the exam. So that's from a material standpoint, but that's also from a question standpoint. I think people see 170 questions and they're like, all right, that's only like 40 or 50 more than the Series 7 exam. It can't be that much more intense. It's not like it's another 200 questions. So I think people, it's 170 questions, but there's some questions on the Series 7 that you could bang out in literally 10 seconds, and there's a lot of them. That 125 questions is not that it's a little deceptive, or however many questions it is. It was 125 when I took it. I think it's a little deceptive because I think that that 125 is stretched out. It's really like 80 or 90 questions.
Mm,
This one's 170, but that's underestimating. I think it's 170, but it's really like 250 because of the amount of effort and focus and concentration that you have to put into each question. So I think that's in terms of that, the intensity of it. That's where
mm.
people have the biggest underestimation. And I don't think they necessarily condition themselves for that. And I think that's the key where people get fucked up. And that's personally where I got fucked up the first time when I took it. I was completely dead after the first half. And just based on my conditioning, I wasn't getting through that.
Yeah, that's it. That is a well said. I will tell you what I think. This is more subtle. And if you're listening, you're welcome. I'm giving you this for free. Most people, and I will gather to say, even people who are well prepared and pass the exam, underestimate fatigue.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Exactly.
You underestimate fatigue. And I'm not talking about fatigue on exam day. I'm talking about fatigue in the process, right? You think about this, right? Oh, I didn't study during the week,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to study more on the weekends. You get to that 4 hour mark and you're toast. And you're not, and you're forcing, you're pushing yourself, right? Then your Monday and Tuesday, your brain is mush. You're not really getting a lot done. Or you underestimate how much it sucks to study at 7 o'clock at night after a day of work, and you're not normally accustomed to studying at 7 o'clock at night. You're normally accustomed to making dinner, sitting down, having dinner, chatting about your day, watching some TV. I watch MasterChef. I screw around on my phone. I go to bed. Oh, what a mind fuck that is after. And again, week one, no problem. Week two, eh. Week three, holy shit. Especially if you're not doing all the other stuff around it correct. And I think this is where you underestimate fatigue that, oh, I don't need to change my schedule. Well, get your ego out of the way because you need to change your schedule because you're going to be tired the entire time that you're studying. And fatigue kills this exam, right? And David, you and I know there's 10,000 people that take this exam per year. Do you know how many people buy materials?
I have no idea.
Over 16,000.
Oh, wow.
That
Okay.
means
That's interesting.
6,000 people don't even make it to the test,
That's crazy. I actually didn't know that. So that means the pass rate is probably less than what they say.
right? So think about it.
Like theoretically.
Theoretically, split that pass rate in half because
Yeah,
it's
because they're
really
not
only six of call it
right.
6,000 people of 16. So you're
Right.
you're closer to CFA levels than you are necessarily to two-thirds passing because
Right.
remember that pass rate doesn't take people who never make it to the exam. And I will tell you, I was shocked when I started tutoring to realize that people go 2 weeks out, they're like, I'm not taking this. 3 weeks out, halfway through the process, they just say, I'm sorry, Joe, I can't. Like I've had this in my class where people where they start the process and I've had people drop out of class 2 3 weeks
Hmm.
um and they drop out of class because they underestimate it. And people come back, I have so much on my plate, I have so much going on, I didn't realize what this was going to be like. I had to stay out late with clients last night. And now remember, you're going to be tired. And that's why when we're like, we talk about this, and we'll talk about this on another video, I'm sure. The long study session, it's out. Just throw it out at this point. And that's where everybody thinks that they're going to make up the difference and they never do.
Yeah. 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 So underestimate when I think just overall, when I think to myself, when you ask me like, oh, when you took it the first time, like, what do you think the biggest thing was? Like, what did you underestimate? What was the reason why you think you failed? Like, what did you underestimate the most? We went over it, but it's the fatigue and the conditioning, not just during the prep portion, the 3 or 4 months that you put in, but it was also on the exam too. It
The
was
exam for
also
sure.
it was on both. But so that's like definitely the number one thing. And then also just straight up like I didn't think that the questions are gonna be that hard. I didn't think that there was gonna be questions that took into account estate tax and retirement planning and then possibly like insurance at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I it's kind of counterintuitive. If you use a Q bank, you should probably be ready for that. But I personally went in thinking like, you know what? I did all these practice questions. I read all the books. I watched the videos. When I get to, and I may have gotten a lot of these questions wrong, and maybe the mock exam, I didn't do that great. But when I get to exam day, I put in so much time. I did all this work. I went through the material multiple times. I'll figure it out once I get in there. I did it for the seven. I did it for the all the other FINRA exams, the insurance exams. Like, why is this one different? And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, well said. I mean, I have nothing else to say because that was really nicely said. And I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah, just straight
Oh,
up. Like I just straight up underestimated that thing. And
kiss of death right there.
exactly,
And we'll talk about
exactly.
this more in actually our next video, because this is the one of the mindset items that I think again ends up killing this dream of passing the CFP, is this idea that just didn't think it would be that bad.
That's it. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. It was significantly harder than what I anticipated, and I wasn't ready for it.
That
And
stinks.
it's good, and it's good, by the way. We're recording this now. This is going to come out next on July, it should on Friday, July 19th. And you have 4 months. If you're taking the exam in November, you have 4 months. So we're telling you this now, so you don't walk into the exam. You know, you're not 2 weeks, 3 weeks from the exam. At that point, it's too late. If you're underestimating at that point, you're probably not going to pass it anyway. But you now have 4 months, 3 or 4 months to know I better not underestimate this thing. It's going to be much harder than I thought. So let me actually put together a plan where I'm going to be in a position to pass this thing. So I'm happy we're getting out in front of it now.
Yeah, and like David said, your takeaway from this conversation is this: sit down, and if you can't do this objectively on your own, ask a colleague, ask a friend, find somebody ideally who's taken the exam. You can come and talk to me as well. That will help you figure out why you failed the exam. And you have to be honest, because you can't achieve this exam without being honest with yourself of where you went wrong, because you can't correct something that you're not deeming as wrong. So you got to figure out where it went wrong. And from there, then you can begin to actually put your plan together. So have that honest conversation. Again, if you can't do it objectively with yourself, do it with somebody else. And then from there, begin. And again, like David said, you're 4 months out. It's now time now to be putting this together, not in 2 months from now. So, as always, guys, we hope you found this helpful. And with any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out to David or myself, and we will see you guys on the next episode.